So first off, very first ingredient is 1,000 milligrams of Carnipure L-carnitine L-tartrate. So Carnipure is a trademarked name, a trademark brand, but L-carnitine L-tartrate is a tartrate salt. So it's a combination L-carnitine, chemical reaction with tartaric acid, and then you get L-carnitine L-tartrate, the conjugate base. Now, in terms of the amount of L-carnitine, I believe L-carnitine L-tartrate is 66% L-carnitine. So out of 1,000 milligrams, you're getting 666 milligrams of actual L-carnitine. So what's the supposed benefit of supplementing with L-carnitine? Well, in the body, L-carnitine is used in what's called the carnitine shuttle. So it is necessary in order to transport long-chain fatty acids across the outer and inner mitochondrial membrane into the mitochondrial matrix, like Neo dodging bullets. I'm dodging mitochondrial membrane, fatty acid, into that matrix, bad joke, into the matrix in order to be used for energy. All right, so carnitine's very important for fat metabolism. To be used for energy makes sense. Ghost energy, carnitine, fatty acids used for energy makes sense. All right. Next ingredient, 1,000 milligrams, aka 1 gram of taurine. So in an average healthy adult, not me, average healthy adult, taurine is a non-essential amino acid, meaning that we don't have to consume it. Our body can make it. Right. In terms of supposed benefits for supplementing with taurine, there are a number of supposed benefits of taurine. One that I found interesting that I think applies to ghost energy is that taurine, through a long series of reactions, which I'll talk about in a future episode, long series of reactions may help upregulate or increase mitochondrial gene expression. What is that? So mitochondria, we just talked about it with L-carnitine, moving the fatty acids into the mitochondrial matrix, but upregulate, increase gene expression. So the process of gene transcription and then ultimately gene translation to actually make proteins. So, okay, taurine may help upregulate the gene expression in mitochondria. Specifically, or I guess an example of what it may help to upregulate, or gene it helps to upregulate, is the genes to create the electron transport chain complexes. So let's break that down. So on the inner mitochondrial membrane across it, there are complexes. I use complex 1, 2, 3, 4, cytochrome C, ATP synthase. And the electron transport chain, as the name implies, it is the process by which the vast majority of our ATP, the energy currency of the cells, ATP is produced. Right? So taurine may help upregulate gene expression for mitochondria, ultimately to make more complexes for the electron transport chain. Thus, we're able to create more ATP. At least that's the idea that I get from it. Next ingredient is natural caffeine looks like from coffee bean. I took a bad picture of this, from coffee beans at 200 milligrams. So natural caffeine as opposed to synthetic, which, like if you see caffeine anhydrous, that's synthetic. But anecdotally, natural caffeine is supposed to give you a smoother lift. So the increase in energy is smoother, so you don't feel like you're high on drugs or something. And then the letdown, it's smoother on the downside, so you don't feel like you're crashing and then you're, bonked out. So that's anecdotal. I've heard people say that it does that for them. I don't know how you would evaluate that in a study other than subjective. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel good taking this? I mean, it feels like caffeine to me. It does. I don't really notice a difference. It's not good or bad. I just don't notice a difference. But, oh well. Mechanism of action. It's an adenosine receptor antagonist. What the heck does that mean? Well, we just talked about ATP with the electron transport chain. That's adenosine triphosphate. So adenosine from ATP. Well, in our brain, central nervous system, and through the whole body, ATP is being used all the time. It's being used up, broken down, etc. Our central nervous system actually uses ATP as a neuromodulator, what's called a gliotransmission, which I'm not going to get into that, at least in this episode. But there are receptors on neurons, pointing to my brain, which my brain has very, very few neurons. At least that's what I'm told often. Oh well. But there are receptors on the neurons for adenosine. All right. And I think it's, what is it? The A1, A2, and A2A are the primary ones. There are other ones, but I think those are the primary ones, the most abundant, I believe, in the central nervous system of the brain. But throughout the day, like what I'm doing right now, if I go work out later or hang with the kid, whatever, throughout the day, adenosine is building up and it's attaching to the receptors on the neurons. And as adenosine attaches, it calms down the activity of the neurons. It's like inhibitory in that way. And the end result is, near the end of the day, we get tired. All right. So caffeine, because it's similar in structure to adenosine, not exactly the same, but it's similar. It can sit in those receptors on the neurons. Well, it's not adenosine, so it doesn't activate it, meaning it doesn't calm us down. It doesn't make us get tired. But because it's sitting there, it blocks caffeine from attaching to it. So caffeine can't attach. So in that way, it delays the onset of fatigue. So in this particular mechanism, it doesn't really give us energy. It just delays the onset of fatigue and then promotes wakefulness, right? So caffeine, everybody loves it. Most used drug on the planet. All right, next ingredient. Pop up the supplement facts panel here again. Alpha GPC. Oh yeah, my old choline. Alpha GPC, 50% at 150 milligrams. So whenever you see alpha GPC 50%, what that means is it's actually 50% alpha GPC. So it says 150 milligrams. That means it's 75 milligrams alpha GPC. So alpha GPC is 40% choline by weight. So if I do the math, like I take 75 milligrams, 7.5 is 10%. Then I take that 4 times. So it's about 30 milligrams of actual choline. And that's what you're taking alpha GPC for. It is a source of supplemental choline. Now, there are several benefits that I can think of for choline, but they put it in Ghost Energy Drink. At least my assumption they put it in Ghost Energy Drink is because choline is a substrate in the neurons to make acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. I think if you listen to Dr. Andrew Huberman, who has an infinite amount of more knowledge than I ever will, in his pinky finger. His pinky has a brain too because he's so smart. His pinky finger has more knowledge than I ever will. He calls it a neuromodulator, so I'm going to go with that. I just say neuromodulator / neurotransmitter. But yeah, it's a substrate to make that neurotransmitter / neuromodulator. But in areas of the brain where it is believed that memory is originated from, focus, attention, like those centers of the brain where those aspects are originated from, there are dense bundles of cholinergic neurons. It's a fancy way of saying that there are neurons there that produce acetylcholine. So the idea is, if you're taking an alpha GPC, you're supplying this choline, that if you're using this before you go work out or using it before an important meeting or working on a project, that now your brain has more of that raw substrate, then the neurons, I should say, have more of the raw substrate to make more acetylcholine, and then should be able to increase focus, attention, arousal, like wakefulness, etc. Next up is Neurofactor, another trademarked ingredient. All right, this is at 100 milligrams. So Neurofactor, I believe it has been rebranded. It is a trademark ingredient. It's been rebranded to Cognitique. I'll put it up here. I think it's COGNATIQ. I used to think it was pronounced Cognat IQ, but when I heard Cognitique, I was like, oh yeah, that actually makes better sense. The company that owns the trademark is Futuraceuticals, but Cognitique / Neurofactor. It is a extract of the coffee fruit. It's also called coffee cherry. So when you think of coffee, we just talked about coffee beans from the natural caffeine. Well, the coffee bean is actually a seed of the coffee cherry / coffee fruit. All right, there's the coffee Arabica plant. Well, there's coffee cherries. And to me, they look like grape tomatoes, those little tiny tomatoes that you put like fancy places put on salads, which I've only seen just a couple of times because I can't afford to go to fancy restaurants. But you have the little cherry tomatoes. It kind of looks like that from what I see. I'll pop a picture up here. But the bean or the seed, what we normally use for coffee, is inside that fruit. Well, the fruit, you take the bean out, and you just toss the fruit. But it was discovered that extracts of this coffee cherry or coffee fruit could increase BDNF, that is short for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Ooh, that sounds brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Man, that sounds intense. But it's a protein made in the neurons, and the idea is you're taking this neurofactor, and then it could help increase the production of the BDNF. Well, there are three, what I got from reading some of the literature, there are three main proposed benefits of neurofactor, or I guess any supplement that can help increase BDNF. And that is neurogenesis, so the actual creation of new neurons. Synaptogenesis. So synaptogenesis, that would be the creation of new connection pathways or communication pathways, I should say, because the dendrite from one neuron and the axon terminal from another, they don't actually touch. That's what neurotransmitters are for, to help, communicate across that synaptic cleft. And then long-term potentiation. So long-term potentiation, it is a hypothesis, but it's one way that it's believed how learning takes place and memories are formed. So if you have neurons that are communicating over time and they continue to communicate, well, then it increases the strength between them. And that could be more receptors on the postsynaptic neuron to help, take in more neurotransmitters, etc. Like I said, I'll get into it more in a future episode, but that's kind of the proposed benefits of BDNF, which neurofactor is supposed to increase BDNF. So good thing. All right. The last active ingredient is estrogen, which is, I always butcher this. It's Astragalus membranosus. I'm horrible at pronunciation, okay? I'll just say astragalus. And pannexnotoginseng. Right. Let me try it again. Membranaceous. Did I get that right? Membranaceous. Again, I failed. I did horrible in English. I was actually in honors, but not in honors English. Astragalus membranaceous. I'll have to practice that. But it's basically an extract of those. Pannexnotoginseng and astragalus. It is an extract of those at 25 milligrams, all right? This one I really don't know too much about. I've heard of it, that it's supposed to help with nutrient absorption. That's what you often hear, but I'm like, okay, nutrient absorption, that's all well and good. Well, how does it help with nutrient absorption? So you go onto the website, and I think it's Nuliv, Nuliv, Nuliv Science is the manufacturer of it. It's, again, a patented, trademarked ingredient. And there are several ways that it can potentially help with nutrient absorption. And one way is to upregulate, again, that fancy word, upregulate, increase CAT transporters. I guess it's redundant. CAT is short for cationic amino acid transporters, to help increase the absorption of amino acids. So essentially, kind of make a long story short, you have the small intestines here, and that's where the nutrient absorption occurs from like food that you eat. In this case, it would be supplement you drink. But you have the apical side, so the side that's facing the lumen, so that's the side where the food is going. Well, there are transporters there that help carry nutrients into the cells and stuff. We talked about that with magnesium, how magnesium Supposedly it can go in between the cells, the paracellular transport, but then with magnesium glycinate, since it's in glycine, then it can use the amino acid transporters to go into the epithelial cells there. But on the backside, okay, so the side where if it leaves, it goes into circulation to the blood, then eventually to the portal vein, and then to the liver. Well, there are transporters there as well. So the idea is that this estrogen is supposed to upregulate these transporters on the basal side there, the cationic amino acid transporters, so then it can help absorb more amino acids. That's one way to do it. I'll go into a little bit more detail in a future episode, but that's one way in which it could help. Now we get to the vitamins, and let me see if I actually took a picture of the vitamins. I may have not. Oh boy, I may have to go to the can here. I don't think I took a good picture of it. Give me a second, folks, as I try to figure this out. I'm going to have to take another picture. Man, that is hard to read. Don't ever get old, as my dad always told me. Don't ever get old, Howard. Picture. Live production here, folks. Producing this live on the air. All right, so, and I can't even read the picture that I took. Well, we got two of them here. We got vitamin C. I think it's vitamin B6. There we go. Vitamin C at 90 milligrams. Vitamin B6 at 1.7 milligrams. Vitamin B3, niacin, at 16 milligrams, if I'm reading that right. And then vitamin B12, I should have written all this down. My fault, folks. Vitamin B12 at 2.4 micrograms, pardon me. So we'll start off with vitamin B6 and vitamin B12. What is the form that they use on here? See, this is what happens, folks, when you do not prepare properly for it. Dude, man, this is like so tiny. That's what she said. It should be near the bottom since it's so... I said bottom. It should be near the bottom. Again, my apologies. It's my mistake. I had to actually pull up a website on my phone because I cannot read that black writing on the purple background. I cannot read it at all. Not Ghost's fault, but I just can't read it. All right, so we have vitamin B6 that's listed as pyridoxal 5-phosphate, and then vitamin B12 is methylcobalamin, and then we have vitamin C, ascorbic acid. So first off, vitamin C. So vitamin C ascorbic acid is a cofactor in the conversion of dopamine, which we all talk about dopamine all the time, like, oh, I need my dopamine hit. Dopamine into noradrenaline, which is also called norepinephrine. So it's good for that fight or flight. So again, if you're using this drink as a pre-workout, which you certainly could. Oh, let me make sure I get the branding there. If you're using the drink as a pre-workout, which you certainly could, you're going to be getting that fight or flight when you're working out. And stuff's getting heavy, it's getting intense. You could also see that, you also experience that if you're taking it like before a meeting or something like that, like where there's stress and your body goes that fight or flight, well, then it's going to be needing to produce more and more noradrenaline or norepinephrine. So vitamin C is a cofactor in that conversion. Right, so vitamin B12, the methylated version, it's cobalamin, but this is methylcobalamin, and then B6. Those are used to help make neurotransmitters. So we talked a lot about neurotransmitters / neuromodulators in this episode. So yeah, definitely a benefit. Vitamin B12 has the additional benefit is that it is used to make what's called the myelin sheath. So I'll put a picture of a whole neuron up here. And then you have the axon, like that long tube. You have the soma, which is where like the dendrites and everything come from. But then you have the axon, and then you have the axon terminals, which go to the dendrites of another neuron. Well, that axon is covered by a myelin sheath. Okay, it's all about conductance, the conductance of the ions down the axon. All right, and now there is gaps in that myelin sheath, and those are called, I love this word because it always makes me sound like I'm intelligent, which I'm not very intelligent. Those little gaps in there are called the nodes of Ranvier. I always like calling it that. We can go into that in another episode, but yeah, vitamin B12 is used to help make that myelin sheath that goes across those axons. All right, so good stuff. You definitely want that. All right, and then we have niacin through a chemical process in the body. It is used to ultimately help to make NADH. All right, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. I'm doing that strictly from memory. I don't remember if that's 100% correct, but the stuff comes in one ear, it stays here for a little bit, and then the information like flows out the other end just as fast. So I forget things as quickly as I remember them, folks. But nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NADH. The H is what's called a hydride. It's I believe it's a hydrogen proton with 2 electrons on it. So what's up with that? Well, we talked about the electron transport chain. Where do the electrons come from? Well, it comes from one product that it comes from is NADH. So very important for energy production. Good stuff. And then we had, what was the other one? Did I get all of them? I got vitamin B12, vitamin B6. We talked about vitamin C and niacin. That's it, folks. Now comes the test. The taste test. I don't even know. I've been here so long. It's still a little bit cold. I had it in the refrigerator, so let me bust out my trusty straw. Okay, let's do the taste test. I think you have to hold the can. What other people do, you hold the can up to the microphone so you can hear it open, so hopefully it doesn't spray everywhere. Ooh, that was actually a really good one, I think. Let's take a sniff. Smells like grape. Let's see. Not bad at all. Not bad. Not bad. Pleasantly surprised. I didn't want to say this beforehand, but I was nervous about the grape taste in combination with carbonation. I know there's been grape soda before, but I was somewhat nervous that the carbonation may affect negatively the taste of the grape. But it's not a super strong grape flavor. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. It's not too strong on the carbonation from what I see. It's very sweet. Not a huge sweet flavored guy, but it tastes good. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I think overall, Ghost did a great job. I'm not going to give a score because I don't have any scoring system set up yet. I don't know. You guys give me a recommendation on scoring system, but yeah, it's good. I like it. The supplement facts are good. Ingredients are good. It looks like they're well dosed and well thought out. Tastes great. I would recommend